people that we are going to be seeing for
So
this.
good to see you all.
So let's get started. Hello, everyone. You have heard my voice. You've seen my face before when you came to the first meeting. Again, I am Cameron Roberson. I'm the guy who's been sending you emails and giving you stupid homework, over your vacation and stuff. That's me. You can blame me. Haha. So you are here because we want to talk about speculative fiction, science fiction, and fantasy, and become better at that through a mentorship program. Fantastic. You're all here for the right reasons. But two things before we start. The first is this is not a class. And I want to reiterate that point. This is not a class. And I say that because I'm a teacher and I teach all day. And the last thing I want to do at 7 o'clock at night is also to teach a class. This is a mentorship program. So there's a difference. What you're trying to do is build a relationship with somebody who wants to hear from you, wants to talk to you, wants to understand you, and see you in your next novel or short story published at the highest level. That will make us all very happy, very proud. But it starts here with being able to have a conversation. So, two things. One, we're all going to go around, going to introduce ourselves. And we would like it if you would also turn on your camera. Because I said before, it's not a class, it's a relationship. And it is extremely difficult to build a relationship with somebody who we cannot see. So that is your choice. But we do strongly recommend because all the reasons I said plus 1,000 more that I haven't. So we're gonna go around. We're gonna start with the mentors, and we're just gonna say our name, what we write if we're writing, and what's making you happy right now. And I'll start. You know my name, Cameron, or if you look me up online, Rob Cameron, my published stuff. And I write middle grade and adult fantasy and science fiction. I honestly, I'm a writer, so I'll write whatever I want. It tends to be science fiction, fantasy. And right now, what's making me happy is the fact that there are no leaks in my ceiling as of 4 o'clock today, and I have exactly 11 pies in my house right now, and they're all different. 11 different pies in my house. They're all delicious. So that's me, and I'm just gonna pick at random someone to go, and maybe one of you, mentees, or maybe one of the mentors. I'm gonna go with Brad. You're gonna be next pick.
Yo, hello. I'm Brad Parks. I publish as Bradley Robert Parks because there's another Brad Parks and he writes mysteries and he's won a lot of awards and I don't like him, but I like him. But there it is. I write fantasy and science fiction, mostly fantasy, mostly urban fantasy for adults, young adult. I'm a big fantasy freak. So that's part of my joy. And actually one of the things that's making me happy is how much awesome science fiction fantasy animation. I love animation. How much of that there is right now. Even like I'm kind of a secret superhero nut, so all of those movies make me really happy. There's a lot of that going on. And also I started Brooklyn Speculative Fantasy Writers in 2010, so that's a thing about me too.
He's the reason we're all here. Naomi, how about you? Full name, so make sure we pronounce it correctly. What's making you happy? What do you write?
So I'm Naomi. My full first name technically is Naomi Ray, but everyone just calls me Naomi. My interests are like fantasy, superheroes, so very much in the same realm. I got started with like Percy Jackson, so mythology, I'm really big into that. And I went through like Shadow and Bone, like the Hunter series and things like that. And I'm really into the Marvel movies, and then not the DC movies, but like the DC TV shows on CW. So I'm very specific.
Legends of Tomorrow.
Yes, Legends of Tomorrow. Those are my favorite. But those are the things that makes me happy. Reading, writing, watching TV shows, everything fantasy and superheroes.
Very cool. Also on my list, I was a big Green Lantern, not Green Lantern, Green Arrow fan. Like, how many seasons was that? Like nine seasons, I think. Yeah, ridiculous. Marcy, you're next.
Okay, hi. I'm Marcy Arlen, and I live in Brooklyn, and I probably sound like it too. So I write science fiction, but mostly science fiction-y, social science fiction, I guess, and fantasy because I'm not really a scientist. I have two novels. One I'm adapting into novella, and one I'm rewriting because I just took a workshop and I got to rewrite the thing again. So it's like the ninth rewrite. So just keep that in mind. And it's a science fiction murder mysteries, and that's what makes me happy, murder mysteries. I'm addicted to murder mysteries. And I think all stories are mysteries too. I have a lot of short stories. Some of them are funny and humorous. I have a middle grade fantasy, absurdist fantasy, something like Alice in Wonderland. And I'm working on a graphic novel that jumps through time, starting with the child at 9 and moving 50 years into the future. So I'm learning all about comics and graphic novels. And the most recent thing that made me happy is I had a flash piece and the editors emailed me and said it's on hold, which means it's going to the big shot editor. So I hope I'm not jinxing it by saying it, but at least, it's nice to feel that readers like your thing, like your stories. I think that's, even if nothing ever happens, that they liked your story, because I think that's why we write. We want people to read our stories and know about us.
Yeah.
And the other issue I just want to say is there's a new genre. I don't know if it's new, but it's something called speculative memoir, which I just want to say is AFRA, which is we were talking about autobiography a little bit, and the idea that using speculative fiction to tell your own personal story. Also, I don't know if you guys know Garcia Marquez, but things like that.
Very cool. Thank you, Marcy. Red.
Hi, I'm Red. I like writing fanfic, fantasy, and romance. Like, I like writing a bunch of different stuff. And I also like Marvel. I actually just saw the Marvels movie that came out recently.
Marvel
Um,
Battles.
yeah, I really like that movie. Um,
So good.
yeah, it was
Yeah,
really
I
fun
was
to watch
waiting
the
for that
movie.
movie. I loved it.
Same. I can't stop talking about it. And I'm happy to be here. Like, I've been waiting for this meeting because, like, when I heard that I got in, I was really excited and I couldn't wait for the first meeting.
Oh, thank you, Red. We're glad to have you. Jonathan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Hernandez. My writer name is Jonathan E. Hernandez. Like you, Brad, there are lots of Jonathan Hernandezes of the world, and some of them are more famous than I am. So that's my writer name, but I go by John. I write science fiction, mostly space opera, military science fiction. It seems like I have that on the brain. I published my Gordian Knot trilogy. Um, oh boy, I think book one came out 2021. I can't remember now. It was a COVID baby. All that time period is kind of a blur. But yeah, I think I've realized that when I was younger, I read a lot of science fiction and was drawn to things like Star Trek for the escapism. And I realize now as I get older that I'm more drawn towards the social commentary aspect, and especially the impact of technology on society. Um, let's see, what am I working on now? I'm trying to sell the last novel that I wrote. It's set in the same universe. I just have to find a home for it now. What am I happy for? What am I grateful for? I always tell people how important it is to read, and I'm a writer, so I should be doing a lot more reading. And I felt kind of ashamed that I hadn't been doing that in a while. So I picked up Dracula. So I'm reading a classic, and it's really good.
Cool.
I feel bad for the main character, Jonathan Harker. He's this English gentleman, and he has no idea where he's about to go. Right. So it's like every time he tells someone he's going to Dracula's castle, they're like, "What? You're going where? You're gonna need this." They'll give him a crucifix and like making the sign of the cross, and it's like he's a classic character, but this guy has no clue. So it's very fun to be a fly on the wall to watch that. What else? I think that's it. I'm a pretty boring person. I have a cat. That's it.
I
Liam.
think we all have cats, right? Everybody here has a cat? Yeah,
I
yeah.
do now.
Ooh.
I do now. Yeah. Recently. It's me,
Liam.
yeah. I'm the guy. Yeah. So yeah, my picture in Zoom says my name is Liam Burke, and we'll go with that. You can also find my stuff that's been published under the same name. Some of it's Liam P. Burke because I independently published for a little bit and I didn't know what I was doing. So I had like some of it is Liam Burke and some of it is Liam P. Burke, and I gotta figure that out at some point and just change things on Amazon or something. But so yeah, not because there's other Liam Burks that I care about, but because I just did it that one time. But anyway, mostly what I write and get published seems to be in the either the cyberpunk or science fiction vein. What I prefer writing is horror. I'm a horror guy. I do have horror stories out there. There's one on the No Sleep podcast. There's one that's about to be in an anthology coming out called Escalators to Hell. But that is my preferred space is horror. Um, but I also like a lot of other genres like everyone else is saying. So cyberpunk is another one of my favorite ones, like I said, and there's a lot of overlap. Cyberpunk's a pretty horrific setting. So there's that. And what's making me happy right now is a couple things. The first of which is I learned a lot of really cool longsword techniques last night at the longsword class that my son and I are taking. It's a HEMA class, which is historical European martial arts. So what that means is they look at a bunch of really old books, which were all pictures, and go, yeah, we'll do that. And then they try to recreate it. And 9 times out of 10, they're right, but a lot of times they're not. And so there's always a lot of infighting and squabbling in different schools, which have different techniques, which makes me think of Blue-Eyed Samurai and going to different dojos and all the different techniques they learned. So I'm happy because I feel like a TV character sometimes now. So that is me. That's who I be.
The technique is trash, Liam. The technique is trash. So
Say that to me again in January.
All you should go watch Samurai.
Jeez.
So I'm going to share my screen so you guys can kind of see what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to share here we go, the PowerPoint. And the the next thing after orientation is introduction, relationship building, icebreaker, finding your voice and process, the constellation mentorship process, meet your mentor, final question. The last part here with icebreaker, what I was going to do was ask you all to tell your worst possible joke that you think is funny. But I feel like I want to move things along. I'm going to save that for the end. But I am going to abuse you with my favorite bad joke, which is what do you call a mountain of cats? What do you call a mountain of cats?
You can barely get it out. It's the best part.
You know what? No, I'm going to be an adult because there are teenagers in the room, so I will be an adult when I give this answer. You call a mountain of cats a meowton. It kind of got read. That's good. I appreciate that. I'm a dad, and also I work with 9-year-olds all day, so that joke makes me smile. So I will come back to that. I want to move things forward a little bit faster because it is 7:19. So the next thing is finding your voice in your process, and that's going to be kind of a transition into the Constellations mentorship. How we decide, how we think of mentorships. Just raise your hands if you got a chance to watch, rather listen to the podcast, essentially, guys. So maybe you got a chance to listen to it. Red, if you didn't, that's okay. Did you get a chance to? I'm asking Red. Did you get a chance to?
Yeah, I saw it. I listened to it before this.
I'll say that again.
I listened to it before the meeting.
Okay, great. So the thing I want to ask you based off of that is, Jeffrey Ford and Kid Johnson come at stories, as you can see, from almost polar opposite directions, right? One of them you could say is a pantser, the other one is a planner. Do you know what I mean when I say pantser? Yeah, so it's somebody who just stream of consciousness, get out on the page and then see what's there, and then we work with that versus someone, that's Jeffrey Ford and Kid Johnson, who is more structured, very much more, she has an analytical mindset where she is looking at the independent components of story structure and kind of fine-tuning them like she's a mechanic. But they both get to excellence, phenomenal stories. And I wonder, for you, where do you fall on that category between the two? Do you think you're more of a pantser or more of a planner? This is for everybody, really, but I'm asking everybody. What do you feel you are on that continuum? No, start with Brad. There you go.
I'll jump in. Yeah. I used to be a pantser. I had no plan at all. And then I found that the stories that I couldn't finish were the ones where I didn't know how it ended. So over time, I've become a plotter just because that's what helps me finish stories. It doesn't mean I know everything that's going to happen from A to Z. It just means if I don't know Z, I just go, I stall in the middle. It just never goes anywhere.
Got you. Red, how about you? Please fall back into you.
I think I'm kind of both because sometimes I write and I don't know where I'm gonna go with it, and then some other times I have an idea in my head and I know where I want to go.
Yeah, like it's like an image, right? Just trying to figure out how does that connect to whatever. I get that. You know what? I forgot for Megan to give her icebreaker too. We'll come back. Jonathan, what about you?
I'm more of a planner as well. Just I know myself and what my strengths are, and yeah, if I don't have some kind of a process or a plan, I'm less successful. So I mean I outline everything like an essay, short story, novel, whatever. I prefer to have some kind of a plan, but you know with uh, the expectation that I will at some point deviate from it because my goal is not to write an outline. My goal is to write a story or whatever. So I just use it for a scaffold, use whatever works, discard everything else. But yeah.
Marcy, how about you?
Depends. If I'm writing a short story, I did a lot of work in theater, so I have sort of theater structure in my head automatically. So I think I sort of plan it out, but not consciously. I think I'm learning to be more of a plotter with novels that I've already written, to help me prop up the saggy middle of the novel. So for me, I resisted plotting for a long, long time. I'm still not thrilled with it, but I think it's a skill I am in the process of learning.
Well, it's also interesting that you do different processes for different kinds of writing, you know,
Mhm,
versus the novel.
mhm.
Naomi, how about you?
I'm also kind of both. Sometimes I'll get a hit of inspiration and then it just like flows out. And sometimes I'll have an idea for a story and then I'll try to plot it out to see where it goes. So I'm like somewhere in the middle.
You know, one of the things I remember from our first session of Constellations is that the feedback from the mentors is that in the conversation sometimes the mentee would say, "Oh, that was such a good idea. All right, I want to go right now. Can we cut this short so I can go and I can try that out right now and just be kind of sparked just to move forward the story off of a conversation that was had." I really like that point in this process. Liam.
Yeah, so I'd say I'm a recovering pantser too. Um, so I used to only pants, and uh more recently, and by recently I mean like the last few years, I've developed like this weird pseudo plotter technique where if I know I want to write 3,000 words or something, I'll write like 5 bullet points of the plot that I'm envisioning in my head. And then I assign each one of those points a certain number of words. And then I usually completely ignore that and write with the general shape of it in mind. I don't completely ignore it, but I try to focus on that. But I more often than not do find myself writing more in one section than another, and then I have to like go back through it and figure out if one section does need to be longer than another and or that kind of thing. So I kind of end up plotting it first and then reflexively pants after I start the actual process of writing. But I try to keep the general planning in the back of my head while I'm pantsing.
You know, it's funny. I think I used to be like you. Actually, no, I used to be a very hard um, pantser, and then I took a class at NYU, and they mentioned this thing called the archipelago method, where you think about different components of the story, and then once those different images arise, now you're trying to connect them. And it was like hypnosis, and that was the only way I could think about stories anymore for a very long time. It was very frustrating because it's not linear, it's not temporal. It's like it could be something at the beginning, something at the end, and now I still need the middle. How are these things going to connect? But then I started having to relearn how to plan, but that just took 10 years of doing it that way, which is very frustrating. Who have I missed? Have I missed anybody? Have I missed anybody? No, I think that was everybody. And so the reason I bring this up is because when you're writing, um, the way that you write also has an impact on the voice that you have. So your process very much oftentimes determines the kind of words that you're putting on the page. The way that you think about story determines how you write. And it's one of those things. I've been teaching for about 20 years, and I've been teaching kids and adults. And when it gets to the writing component, it's the voice is that one thing that I find that I cannot, even without no matter what the lesson plan is, I cannot teach the voice. I can't teach someone that this is the way that you should write. This is you on the page. And really, the only way to find that is by knowing your process. Essentially, it's knowing yourself, knowing and reading very good writing. And honestly, sometimes you'll be bad writing, so you can say, "Oh my God, that's horrible. I can do better." Which happens to be what happened to Octavia Butler. She was watching a sci-fi film. She's like, "What was the book?" And she watched and said, "This is disgusting. I can certainly get paid to do better work," and that kind of inspired her. So spite, honestly, is very helpful in finding your voice. And what the mentors are here to do is to help you to shortcut that process. I don't know what you're reading right now, how you're consuming media right now, but the short form, the short story, is one of those ways to consume a lot of different kinds of media in the written word and see different styles until you find the one that works for you, until you find even like the speculative element that works for you. And I notice a lot of us here, we're talking about fantasy, but there are many different levels, different kinds of fantasy, where the fantastic element can be very, very literal, or it can be very much on the gray end. You're not quite sure if it's a dream or if it's real, or what's happening is just the wordplay of the author. And sometimes that's purposeful. That's very purposeful. That's a style and that's a voice. So reading those stories that inspire you, that is part of our job, is to kind of do that with you. So that kind of leads me into the next. I'm skipping a couple slides here, into the next component, which is to talk about what we do here in the Constellations mentorship method. We are going to do what's called the close read. Now, if you haven't heard of that before, I'm just going to say it briefly. It's where you find stories that you are reading, and maybe you're not even reading the entire story, right? Maybe you just read a section of it for a very specific purpose. And it could be to master a component of dialogue, to see how a master of dialogue has done it, and then to try and emulate that in your work. Or it could be plotting. How did this author start from this point and then get to the end and then blow us away with something that we didn't see coming but was there the entire time? It's hard to do. And all writers who are reading will be better writers in this process. And so the mentors are there to help to guide you to those authors that they think are or have done really good work, really phenomenal stories doing different things. Now, some of those stories will have spanned different mediums, right? So maybe that was a short story first, but now it's a movie, or then it was inspiration for anime or something like that. So we do want to look across genres to find an inspiration, what makes you tick, what makes you write, to find your voice. But ultimately, what we're talking about is the written word in the short story form. So when you meet with your mentors, you're basically doing two things. You are doing the close read, as I said before, and they'll talk to you about that process and how much time you have for the close read and the expectations for this for this process, and also looking at your writing and seeing, asking you what do you see, and talking about what they see and the next steps for making your work as close to professionally publishable as possible. That is the mentorship process in a nutshell. By the end of our time, what we would like is for you to simply be better than when you came in. How much better all depends on the relationship that you build with your mentor and the work that you do. But I will say this, as a teacher who has done this for many, many years, there is no way that we can force feed you to read or write and do the reading. And quite frankly, we don't want to. That's not what we're paid to do here. We are paid to have a conversation with people who are already motivated to do the thing, and then to find those gems which will motivate you even more. But we are not taskmasters. So if you don't do the work, okay, we will work with wherever you are, but that just simply means that the opportunity that you have will not be used to its full potential. So I strongly suggest that whatever you decide on, whatever stories you're going to do, or you're going to read or close read or work on with your mentor, that you take it very seriously, because we take you very seriously. You showed up. So we're going to show up for you. And we want to see something that you're proud of at the very end of this process. And I will say it's the end of this process because it's only 3, possibly 4 months, depending on your schedule, but it's the beginning of a relationship, the beginning of your relationship with the written word, because then becomes very, very many things. So I'm going to stop talking for a moment. I'm going to pause for two things. One, if you have any questions about this before we start talking about the meeting with your mentors, and if you have any questions, and if any mentors want to add to what I've said or tell me that I'm full of ish, and say so. This is your time to tell me full of my. Stop talking. Nope. Okay. Then let's keep this moving. So meeting your mentor. The time is technically limited to 30 minutes. What you're going to do is I'm going to open up breakout rooms. Your breakout room is going to have your name plus the name of your mentor. In that time, you are going to talk about, you with the mentor, meet and greet a little bit more, talk about what you feel, what they feel like you want to, they feel like the next steps are going to be. And then also possibly talk about the close read that you're going to be doing. Now, if there are stories, short stories specifically, or medium that's not a novel that you are interested in talking about, that you already have on your radar, also talk to them about that, and then they can study and say, okay, here's a part that that they're doing something really well, and that'll be the conversation you have with your mentor. You're also going to be talking to them about your schedule. Some of you are in college right now, some of you are in high school, some of you guys have jobs out that this takes time, life takes time away, and writing takes time away from life. So you are going to figure out your schedule. When are you going to be meeting? Because you're going to be meeting at least once for the next 3 months. You decide when that month starts. So if you're deciding to start in December, then that's December, January, February. Or you start in January, then you can do the math. You know how math works, how to add 1, 2, 3. If there is a place where maybe you need to meet twice in that month because something's coming up, or you need to skip a month, that's going to be part of the conversation you have with your mentor, just to make sure everything's up and up. Once the schedule is set, mentors, please then do set up a Google Calendar meet so that they know when we're meeting and when and I know when you're meeting. Talk about that. The thing I will reiterate, I'll say now and I'll say it again at the end, is that if there is an issue where you can't meet at a particular time that you've agreed upon, it is important that you communicate with your mentor. The same thing with the mentors, communicate with your mentees in advance, give them enough notice so that they know to plan around them and plan and rearrange their life so that they can find another time to do so. Those are 3 things. It's meet your mentor, know each other, talk about your writing, next steps, and schedule. Any questions before I open up the room? Nope. Okay, so let me do that. I'm going to, and then Megan and I are going to give you some time. Then we're going to step in and out of the meetings to answer any questions. If you have any questions for us, please do put it into the chat as well. Okay, here you go. It's exciting. Put in all rooms. Yes. Good. And you've had a chance to talk about a BSW meeting to attend. Fantastic. I just want to say a couple things about that. You do have, excuse me, actually, let me share my screen. So BSW is quite large, has a variety of different meetings, from expert series, beta reads, novel critique, short story critique. We have 3 short story critique meetings, which is probably what you would be looking at. But also one of the things that it is helpful is the on the spot. So on the spot is where you have an idea for a story, and then you talk about your idea for the story. It's not fully fleshed out. You just want to spitball with somebody, what they think would be a good place to take this. Or if you're writing a story and there's just this one thing that you're having an issue with, again, you take your story and you spitball it. So the thing that makes the short story critique different from the on the spot, one of the many things, is that the short story critique, you need to read the stories in advance. The majority of the critique sessions, you have to read the stories in advance so that you can have the conversation about that, intelligently. On the spot is different, where you just come and say what your idea is, or you can read up to about 1,000 words, and then people will give you their suggestions, their advice on and try to answer your questions based off of that. When you do the short story critique, if that's what you do, then you are only obligated to read one of the short stories being critiqued, because we know that you are probably in school and you have a lot of reading to do anyway. So that is an option for you. And then the organizer who's going to be leading the meeting, they'll know to put that story first, so that you can have the conversation, you can give feedback. In the feedback sessions, the feedback is given two ways. One, it is given on the document itself. So this, whoever is being critiqued, they will send their stories to the critics for them to read in full, and then they submit their commentary on the document as comments, as inline comments, that kind of thing. Yes. So that's kind of how. And then also there's a conversation that you have during the meeting, and there is a critique to it. That is also on the website for BSW, which I'm on right now, which is relatively short, but it comes down to this: is to be a good listener, try to give positive feedback and helpful feedback, as well as maybe what you did not like about the story, maybe helping them think their way through what might be helpful, or to give examples of where that might, or you've seen it done well for them to take a look at as well. And there's a structure to it, there's a process to it. So just to be aware of that, your mentor hopefully will be there at your meeting, so that they can be, someone you can talk to in the chats, and and just kind of guide you through the process. But every meeting, I should say, there are different levels uh, of writer, from very beginning to multiple published authors like Liam and Marcy and Brad. So and Jonathan, excuse me. So everyone there is learning, and the attitude and the vibe is one that is very collegial and open to criticism and open to feedback and open to commentary, and with the intention of always giving the author ultimate control of their story, and with the understanding that we are not talking about the author, we're not talking about the mama, we're not trying to critique them. We are looking at this piece of art. We're trying to help them from the piece of art, but also in the process, we learn by being part of that critique process, even if it is not our own story. So being able to talk about stories is very important. So that's one of the reasons why we like you to do this. But also because, as a Constellation mentee, you are now officially a BSW member. You are a free member. So I will send out information to you for you to join us. But that means that you can go to any meeting that you want of our list of meetings, and be a full-fledged member. And you're not limited to the short story critique, but with your mentor, you would plan to be at one of those so that you can see how it works. I would suggest, if you are gung-ho to go and join the group and do stuff, maybe do one with, in the process that I'm talking about, before you go on your own and do it. Although you certainly can. We have high school students showing up too, or a couple of our long-term members. They brought their kids along, and those kids now are members for submitting work as well. So it's open, it's friendly. There are no jerks. We've weeded 99% of them out. Marcy knows who we're talking about. That's why she has to take a drink. So that's that. If do you have any questions about what I've just said so far? Anything? No? Okay, so we're basically done. I will just say, please do keep communication open with your mentor, and mentors, keep communication open with your mentees. Everyone's time is precious. We acknowledge that, but this process of writing is art, and that takes time and energy and pressure. And the last thing I'll say is the joke, really bad joke. It is now your turn to give a really bad joke. I have mine. If you're just stuck and you can't think of a really bad joke, that's okay. That's okay. I have a link for you here in the chat for you to find the stupidest, most ridiculous joke that makes you go, what? I can't believe that. Because one of the things about writing short stories, I think, and this is maybe one of the things that's different from a novel, is you're not just telling a story, you're giving somebody a really concentrated experience, an emotional experience, or an insight. You're trying to get awe, or you're trying to get horror, or you're trying to get something, or some kind of insight, particularly with science fiction, into human nature and to the past. And a really good bad joke is also kind of jarring in a way too, where it's like, I didn't expect for this to be so bad, and yet somehow still so good. I'm laughing because it's bad. And that is a kind of that's kind of a good short story too, right? You get this dichotomy of emotions all at the same time, and you give that to your reader. You force that upon your reader. Really
Well, they
well.
have 2-sentence horror stories. That's the thing. So,
Yeah, that's true. They
Yeah.
do have them. All right, so uh, anybody want to go first with their really bad joke? That's okay. Liam,
Oh, I'll do
I'll
it.
go.
Brad, you go. Go ahead,
Oh,
Brad.
Brad, go.
This is completely stupid, but when I was a kid, I thought it was hilarious. Why do witches ride brooms? Because vacuum cleaners are too heavy to fly.
Oh God.
Told ya. Told ya. Oh, that killed me when I was a kid. Oh my God. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
But there you go. I broke the ice on the
Plus,
icebreaker.
Especially when we were kids.
You
Those
get
things were
unplugged, and you
behemoths.
can't fly
Yeah.
anymore because no electricity.
Exactly.
Also that, yeah.
Yeah, you need a really long extension cord. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it would unplug.
Megan, this is for you too, because we didn't get
You
your
like-
what makes you
you
happy.
Evangelion.
We'll end with you because we get your joke, what makes you happy, and something about you as well. Who wants to go next?
I'll go.
Okay.
So this is the joke that my wife told me when we were first dating, and I laughed for a half hour, and she thought I was making fun of her because it's so stupid that there's no way that I thought it was that funny. So the joke is, you're so skinny, you got to run around in the shower to clean off. And I laughed because I just pictured this guy running around in the shower with like this big, huge bobblehead with his hands covering his privates. And because I was imagining it, like I was watching him, but that person was me. So it didn't make any sense. So I just kept like resetting myself for the laughter over and over and over and
Is he
over
trying
again.
to catch the rain, but he's too skinny to catch each
Right.
individual
Even the individual streams of, yeah.
rain? Okay.
So.
Red, you got one? Something silly.
Yeah, I have one. Why did the chicken cross the road?
So many reasons.
To get to the other side?
No, that's a classic. That is,
Yeah.
that is is that has anyone ever dated these jokes? One of the first knock knock jokes? I'm pretty sure that is one of those. I remember that.
Yeah. That's an oldie but goodie.
Mhm.
Marcy.
Well, this was a gift joke to me from Liam because I'm congenitally unable to laugh at jokes or tell jokes. So apologies ahead of time.
Not true.
Yeah, well, I can be funny. I couldn't be funny, but I can't do the joke format.
Fair.
Ba-dum-bum, that kind of thing. So how many? See, I'm going to tell it, Ben. How many tickles does it take to make an octopus laugh? He's laughing already. Okay, the answer is tentacles.
Oh my God, that might be my new favorite dumb joke.
Thank you, Ben.
It's
That
so
was
stupid.
It's
get
so
it,
clever.
tentacles. Yeah,
Mm.
but then I
Mhm.
explained it, which is not good.
I
Okay.
know.
Okay, thank you, both of
You're
you.
welcome.
Because it just tells, when you're going outside your safety zone, going for it, and
Yep.
generally-
Good times.
Naomi, what do you got?
Not happy.
I took one off the list, so it's a knock knock joke. Knock.
Hit me with it.
Who's there?
Will.
Well,
Well, who?
Well, you're ready. Open the door, please.
Oh,
Put some stank on it. I love it.
knock jokes.
dialogue. Great. I love
Yeah, they're dialogue. Hello, knock jokes. Dialogue.
it. Jonathan, you're up.
Okay. What do you call a fish without eyes?
Blind?
Fish.
Kid told me that one. I was like, oh, it's a good joke. It's so much innocence, but
It's
so
all in the
correct.
delivery too.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Tell we're word nerds.
that is.
Oh,
I'm tearing up a little bit, and I'm not sure if it was that joke or just the amount of ridiculousness that's coming out.
Now,
I like how you couldn't tell your own joke without laughing. You're just cracking yourself
sound,
up.
the
That's
sound of the joke is important. The sound.
there are a couple other jokes like the, never mind. I'll tell you guys later. Megan, I can't get through it. Megan,
Okay, I've got one. Why can't you hear a pterodactyl going to the bathroom?
Because their P is silent.
Because the P is silent.
Oh,
Oh,
That's a
Yeah.
good one. I like that one.
oh, that's another great word nerd joke.
Yeah, that's a
Yes,
good
it is.
one.
Word nerd.
Word nerd combined with a little bit of like childish bathroom humor,
Science
which I think is
stuff.
my
Yeah.
sweet spot.
And
Yeah.
dinosaurs, which you can't go wrong with.
Dinosaurs,
you
yeah.
know, it's ridiculous. Writer,
So many
and-
bases.
And am I right?
Yeah.
So many bases.
Talk about an oldie but goodie.
And I, and I teach you.
Prehistoric even.
That did not come to me. It did not come to me. Thank you very much.
That's whoever comes up with these. That's who I want to meet.
They're the
Yeah.
real heroes. They don't
Yeah,
wear capes.
exactly.
So it's 8:23, and I would love to continue spending this time with you all telling horribly good jokes. But it is time for us to end, and I just want to say that one of the reasons, besides giving you this information, which could have been an email, it's all been an email, is to let you know that it's not just you and your mentor. The writing process does not have to be a lonely one. I mean, certainly, ultimately, it can only be you sitting in front of the blank screen and typing or handwriting whatever it is that you're going to ultimately show to the world. But you are not writing in a vacuum. You're not creating in a vacuum. And this is a community that we are creating here. The mentorship is the beginning of the community. So I know that BSW has started to try and come together around a Discord to have a conversation where you guys can have conversations about stories. It's still in the works because it just takes longer. Everything takes longer than you think to get everything set up. But either way, you can email each other. We will set up some kind of form of regular communication so that everything is up. I'll also be sending you a link to the folder that has the different documents, different stories, and other things that we think will be helpful for you all as well. Marcy.
And I just want to remind mentors that when you email the Google Meet time to your mentees, to also CC Cam and Megan.
Yes, thank you.
So they know.
Okay.
And and just in the time between when you are talking to your mentors, I would suggest that you look for short stories or stories in the short form. When we looked at your forms that you sent in for a submission, mostly you were either talking about visual media or the novel. Please do look at the short story form because a lot of these novels started off like that. And if you can do powerful things in a short story, we won't necessarily translate completely over to the novel, but a lot of those skill sets will definitely make the novel more powerful if that's the direction you end up wanting to go. So that is it. It is wonderful to meet you all. We will have
Lovely.
future. And good luck.
Yeah.
Have fun.